Hello, everyone. My name is Jenks, developer advocate at Filecoin Foundation. GM. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to Chainlink Spring 2022 Hackathon. Chainlink is an important collaborator partner of Filecoin Network. We had announced the integration over Block over a year ago. If anyone is from Chainlink listening right now, I'm a big fan of your developer tutorial and documentation. It is very easy to read, fast to get hands-on and start building. So thank you very much for that. Today, my topic is a brief history of nearly everything IPFS and Filecoin. This is an introductory talk that my colleague Ali and many others have worked on. I'm proud to bring to you this today. Now, the agenda. I will go through IPFS Filecoin concept, tech, and dev tooling, IPFS Filecoin use cases, IPFS, some projects that I'm going to showcase off, and IPFS for social good, the possibilities for your project and opportunities for you to build on in this hackathon and beyond, and also some resources for you to learn right after this workshop. Also, how to get involved, how to stay in touch. We want you to be part of the community. This Filecoin and IPFS is owned by the community. Now, before I start, I have to explain four names there. You can see Protocol Labs, Filecoin Foundation, IPFS, and Filecoin. Now, the two above it are organizations. So there are people, and the two below it are technologies. So Protocol Labs is an open source R&D lab building protocols, tools, and services to improve the current internet. Protocol Labs believes the internet is humanity's best technology, and we need to make it better. Filecoin Foundation is a steward of the Filecoin community and the custodian of Filecoin blockchain project. It is aspiring to put the power of humanity's most important information back to the hands of everyone. IPFS is a protocol. It is a peer-to-peer protocol that is making the web more upgradable, resilient, and more open. Think of it as a peer-to-peer version of HTTP. That is a fundamental to building our Web3 technology stack. Filecoin is a decentralized storage network and a storage marketplace to store humanity's most important information. Storage providers and clients can trade storage capacity there and make deals for a certain amount of time. So think of it as a Airbnb for data storage. So now we have that clarified. Let's take a look at where IPFS is and Filecoin is in the whole Web3 stack. Now, I love this diagram that's made by Edge Node, and it is explaining the diversity of Web3 tools. Web3's diversity is what I love about it. There's many projects going on, sometimes competing, but not really. Like they all focus different things and has different beliefs. It is a brilliant thing. And also, there is a sheer collaboration of efforts going on in the space, and the innovation, iteration of ideas on both technical and social spaces really inspires me. One of the big pieces of Web3 stack puzzle, though, is how to store data in a way that is aligned to the mission, what we are here for, of building a distributed, verified, censorship-resistant internet that is owned by the people, and that is still bringing the benefit of Web2 with it. Now, that's easily accessible. Web2 means it's easily accessible, scalable, cheap, and efficient. This is one of the core problems IPFS and Filecoin are aiming to solve. As we know, storing any large amount of data in contract on Ethereum is going to be very expensive. IPFS and Filecoin provides immutable content. IPFS provides immutable content reference to it and allows peer-to-peer system to find content over the network without a central server or authority. So it's trustless. And Filecoin is a layer 0 blockchain network designed from the ground up for making storage. And it started the storage marketplace that is able to dynamically adjust its crypto economy to keep a storage price always competitive than its Web2 counterparts. So, joining me here today on the right-hand corner is Biscuit, our Filecoin Corgi, our mascot. Corgi is good doggo and will be helping me with my demo today. So hopefully I have set the scene where Filecoin is in the Web3 now. Filecoin IPFS is in the Web3 stack now. Let's get into the tech side of things. Currently, our Web2 model is a centralized model. There are few companies that are offering storage, including Microsoft, Google, Amazon, think AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. Not only this, our content, the majority of our content is actually in a few centralized platform companies like Twitter, YouTube. And these social media profiles, their basis of their business model is building on owning these data. Now, this leads to several issues. First one is lack of security and portability of your own data. And the second one is if a centralized storage system fail, which we have seen over the years, AWS outage, CDN outage, entire services go down. Now, to solve this resilience engineering challenge, by introducing multiple layers of the system can help, but the domain system that we're in now, the HTTP system, are still centralized. And in a way that internet is designed right now, location-based method of finding things, namely URLs, still persist with this problem, centralization problem, because everyone's looking for that server that hosts that content. So this really leads to one question. Why aren't we designing the internet from the ground up to be autonomous, resilient, and what we need in the first place? This actually leads to the original concept of the internet. It should be an open place to share knowledge, and it should be computer communicating to each other peer-to-peer. So it's something becoming more apparent where we need to move the internet to. So how do we do this? How do we provide a resilient, performant, scalable, secure, efficient, and trustless, censorship-resistant, free, but also private, silo-busting web? Now, this is exactly the problem we're trying to solve here. Over the course of next 40 minutes, you'll see how IPFS, a peer-to-peer hypermedia protocol for content addressing, and Filecoin, the world's largest decentralized storage network, are working towards and are the important building blocks of Web3. So next, coming up, we're going to talk about files and folders, but I promise it won't be boring at all. So let's get started with IPFS. IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. So far, my favorite acronym in a Web3 universe. What is a file system? Files are folders and any other files that are in different formats. Why interplanetary? Because a peer-to-peer system like IPFS, it is resilient. So when one sector of the internet gets cut off or be isolated, they can still run by itself. So it's offline first design, and it is designed to be able to sync very small amount of data, and you access data where they're stored, and that the data should be near you as well. This problem is very similar if we start a Mars colony in the future. And the current model of having all the requests sent to Earth, where most contents are, to serve Mars is not going to work, because one request could take 1 hour for a round trip between Earth and Mars. So, however, if the content is already fetched by someone on Mars, then that person could serve the content directly and much faster instead of going back to Earth. As we will see that IPFS is distributed by design. There's no centralized authority and centralized server to store the content. There's no centralized services to be contacted to obtain the content. So IPFS addresses content by what it is instead of where it is. It replaces a folder file or a folder or a file location with a content ID. So take a look at it. The process of storing and saving data on our local machine, it goes on our drive and it is addressed by its path. The web is not so different. We open a website, we put in a URL, and it opens some files. Websites are a form of files. They are programs that developers have written, and it looks pretty because our browsers actually render this for us. Now with IPFS, we're also obtaining files from a remote location. However, the key difference is that we don't need to know the location of the content, but what it is, what they are, so by the content of it. Ultimately, the content can be in one or several locations, but it doesn't matter. We can deal with that. The first step of uploading something to IPFS is that we will create a fingerprint of a content. And this is called a content ID. And it is cryptographically hashed. So you can think of it as a kind of a cryptographic fingerprint of that piece of content. Every piece of content produces a different fingerprint. All fingerprints are of the same size, the same length, that is, regardless of the amount of the content that they represent. All fingerprints, the fingerprint which named content ID or CID can be reproduced anytime from the original content by hashing it again anywhere in the network. This means that if we obtain a piece of content after requesting the content ID, we can verify what we're looking at. It should be exactly the same as what's being uploaded in the first time from the first node. Now, IPFS uses a structure called Merkle Direct Acyclic Graph, Merkle DAG in short. And this allows IPFS to move location-based addressing to content-based addressing in a single step by replacing locations with root CIDs of the content, and the subpaths remain the same. Where you can see on this graph, the top level folders has a root content ID, CID. It has two children entries corresponding to two folders. And these folders have other entries corresponding to the files. Each node entry has a different content ID, CID, or the fingerprints. The color in this graph represents a new CID. So as an example, how it works, let's say we wanted to copy biscuit.png, the corgi, to the folder for the second user. Well, first, we don't actually need to copy the file. We just need to give it a reference, because whatever it is, as long as the files are the same, we can just reference it. Instead, we can modify the containing folder to reference the content and propagate a new content ID for that folder up through the root ID. This is pretty neat, because essentially what we're doing is we're not storing any duplicate content. We're actually deduplicating the content. You also don't need to get that content trusted, because it's verified already. The hash of a content always returns the same fingerprint. It's more efficient storing data. But how does data pass around, right? If you're asking one node for a content, it doesn't have it, how does it get around the network and find it and serve it? So let's start with the concept of peers. Now, forget for a moment that you're dealing with IPFS. Think about a group of people and you're trying to communicate effectively in this group of people. It will help if we can address a person with identity, which is probably by their name. If they also share the same language, so they can communicate, that will also be very helpful. And if there's a way to verify what their claims are, then that will be a very, very effective communication. This is the same with IPFS, except replace the person with peer ID in the network. Each peer has a unique identifier called peer ID, and this identity is linked to a cryptographic identity, which allows the peer to communicate securely through an encrypted channel. In order for peers to discover each other, we use a method called distributed hash table, DHT. You probably all heard of a hash table. So distributed version is not too different, apart from that they need to be maintained by a few peers. It is like a phone book, but everyone keeps a few pages of it. In order to get the value associated to a key, a peer asks for other peers in the network who has it now, and the peer will route the content through to provide it. So a few services needs to happen, like peers need to be able to discover each other, and peers also need to provide services, and other peers can consume those services. So once these peers are connected, it's likely that we can locate those content fast. And also once a peer sort of add a row in their hash table, so for example, a new content or a new peer in their network, they will broadcast to their network to say, hey, I own this content. Like if you got anyone else looking for this content in the network, please route them to me. So this is called DHT content routing. So IPFS can now use this DHT as a database when either a CID or a peer ID is added to IPFS, a peer can insert which row that has that extra query information. On the left, you can see a table that is representation of it. That's one example of it. The keys are either content ID or peer ID. Peer ID can get add rows, and the content ID can be added as well. Now, in that way, mapping the content type were generated to this peer ID, declaring itself as a provider for that content, publishing the rows involving finding it similar enough to the content ID to store the row. At the end of the DHT query, the peer knows who has the content and and knows where to get it. So how to access IPFS network? Now, from the left to right, there are different level of getting involved or connecting your system into IPFS. You can run a single node, it could be your laptop or one server. You can run a cluster of computers, or B is method 2. You can use a pinning service. Now, in Patrick's earlier workshop, NFT and IPFS, he used a service called Pinata, which is one of the most popular pinning services tool. So they're like servers for rent. Like you can hire a IPFS server there and ask them to pin the service forever for you. A lot of creators, creator economy is big. A lot of creators are using this one. I spoke to the team at Pinata earlier, and they're making some creator tools as well. And the last one is just upload it once, like spin up your node, upload it, and then finger crossed, like hope that content persists for a long time. But not really. If you don't give some kind of incentive to other peers in the node, they will likely to run garbage collection and recycle that content. For friends who have used BitTorrent, it works kind of like that. The unpopular content sort of goes away after a while, or you can't find a peer to actually connect and download. Fun fact, some of those technologies mentioned here, if you watch Silicon Valley, the season 4 Pi Piper project was loosely based on IPFS research and talks here. So so we talked about persistence, like why would anyone persist your data on the IPFS network? And this is exactly where Filecoin comes in, because Filecoin leverage the crypto economy incentive to keep this data distributed. They also keep it reliable, verifiable, stored, and with incredibly cheap cost or low cost there. It's also permanent, so as long as you want to make it, it could be 5 minutes or 500 years, as long as the storage provider who provides those storage always take your deal. So getting into Filecoin a little bit further, Filecoin is compatible with IPFS technology and other Web3 technologies. It uses IPFS as a building block to share all the benefit of content addressing as CID, integrates with Web3 networks like Near, Polygon, and many other. Will be soon compatible with EVM through our Filecoin virtual machine as well. Filecoin is verifiable while cryptographic proof. So to ensure that providers are actually storing your data and haven't tampered with it or lost it, or something happened to it, we keep it safe. The block reward is issued for the right behavior. So if they store the data truthfully and they can prove that they're storing that data still for you, then they get rewarded for that. But we also have collaterals, so we have slashing as penalty if the data gets stolen or changed. Then they will face some penalty there. So it gives you a pretty good SLA on your storage, and because there is a huge amount of penalty if the storage providers don't provide those proofs. So that gives you like control over permanence of your data. Do you want how long do you want your data to last for, and when do you not want it? So far we have developed a very, very massive and formidable decentralized network, 16 million terabyte of capacity, committed capacity across the globe right now by 3,500 plus storage providers around the globe. So that's pretty impressive. There's no network that is big enough to than Filecoin. So it's governed by consensus. So Filecoin Foundation is the steward of this consensus community. It's not owned by a single corporation. It's community driven. We have funded about 50. It's funded for 50 years of open community development. So So the capacity is massive, but how does the Filecoin storage deal work? Now, Filecoin storage work like this: when a client will want to store some kind of data, and presume it's usually pretty big because Filecoin is an enterprise grade system. We can store petabytes level of information. So when you want to make a deal with one or more storage providers, sometimes you want it to be distributed across the geological positions. And the storage provider, upon receiving that data, they'll make the deal, and then the deal gets accepted. I want to pay this much to store data for like 6 months or 18 months. And then that deal gets, once it gets accepted by the storage provider, they will need to generate initial kind of proof called proof of replication, PORIP. And this is to verify that the data that's being received is exactly the same as what the client has sent over. And from that point on, during the whole storage deal, the Filecoin storage provider will need to continuously provide proofs. And these proofs provides two things. One is the data is being stored, and data is continuously being stored over time. We call this proof of time space, or POST, basically, POST. Now, the miners, upon completion of this storage deal, they get rewarded, and the clients can decide to let it expire, and which means the storage provider might delete the data, or they can choose to renew this data for another 6 or 18 months. Now, this builds on not just data permanence, but also a time frame control. So again, you can decide how long the data you want to store for, whether that's 5 minutes or 500 years. Not everyone wants data to store for all the time. Sometimes you may want to delete it and let it die. Now, you also have control over how many copies you want to have. So Filecoin is designed to have multiple redundancies and as many redundancy as you like. So the deal-making structure allows for efficient marketplace, and when you submit deals, you can submit to multiple providers, and this is super good for certain things. Now, also, we have a community partner, Murmuration, BitScreen. They have developed a product called BitScreen that allows you to filter deals. So sometimes you may not want a deal to happen, or you may not want certain content to be stored on your network, on your storage point. Then you can reject deal if you don't wish to receive that kind of content. Now, there is also a lot of opportunities to build toolings in this space. Deal making sometimes are not most user-friendly, and we do have RFPs and dev grants written for improving certain areas. So that could be one of your hackathon project. So just a side point, IPFS storage layer is agnostic, which means that you can combine it with storage layer of your choice. That could be Filecoin, which will be a great option, but you may also store your data in decentralized cloud storage server or decentralized storage solutions. So it's a platform agnostic. So together, IPFS allows for fast and flexible retrieval with gateways to link to Web2 and local nodes browsers integration, and Filecoin provides persistency and verifiability. So these two marry together very good. Hot storage solution and cold storage solution, they are together. So finally, this section is what you're waiting for, which is how can I build and what kind of fancy tools have you built for us developers to build for this hackathon? Now I'm going to go through this, but first, let's take a look at the architecture. Now I want to move on to the architecture. If you look at the bottom layer, you have the IPFS nodes and also Filecoin storage providers. They're a bit hard to interact with. So therefore, on top of it, we have built numerous storage helpers, like Pinata is one of them, and also we have S3 node that you can spin up and interact with the network. We also have some free services like NFT.storage and Web3.storage, which I will go into. And we also have Textile to help you to do that. So those storage helpers actually provide a really quick and fast way for developers to interact with the network without going through making deals and stuff like that. And so the stack looks like this. Like you load your front end from IPFS, you presume you store it and deploy it to IPFS. So that's your front end of your application. For identity and payment, you can connect to a wallet, a Web3 wallet to do that. And then to access the content, for the client to access the content, your application, they can either use a DWeb enabled browser like a Brave or Opera, or they can use an IPFS gateway. Like IPFS.io is one of them, but we have 15 other gateways that are currently online and provide different kinds of performance. So I mentioned earlier that we also have Brave and Opera integration. So these browsers will be able to recognize IPFS as a protocol and serve those content directly. So these are tools that makes IPFS and Filecoin IPFS nodes upload content and also make Filecoin deals for you, so you can storage them for long term and often for free. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. One of the free hosting service is Fleek, and this is one of my favorite IPFS dev tool and project. Fleek is a CDCI tool that is very similar to Netlify or Vercel. So just hook up your GitHub account, GitHub repository, specify your build commands and sequence, and they will build and publish it on IPFS and Filecoin for you without you having to worry about anything. You can connect your domain to it, and once you update merge your code to master or main, I should call it now, that will pull it and directly build and deploy to IPFS network. Now you're encouraged to use it in your hackathon, but if you only use a Fleek to deploy your front end and didn't use any other IPFS technology, and you didn't write anything to IPFS network, upload images or upload files, now unfortunately you're not eligible for the hackathon prizes. We're after more advanced use of IPFS core technology, open source projects or dev tools, and just reading IPFS and using Fleek to deploy doesn't suffice that. But it is an awesome tool. If you use, even if your deployment product is also working on the DWeb, you can really call your application a dApp. NFT.storage is another interesting one. NFT.storage basically provides, the way I say it is like Dropbox for developers. And if your content is an NFT, then feel free to use it. Register, connect your GitHub account, register, or get an email link, get a magic link email to you, and you can start using today. And it exposes a set of Web2 RESTful APIs for you to talk to, and you can send your files there and then manage your files easily. NFT.storage also has SDKs in just about any language, and so far this tool is so popular. We have 45 million NFTs currently stored on NFT.storage, and that's growing every week in the magical number. So a lot of our partners like OpenSea and Magic Eden are using this service as well. So feel free. It is currently free. Feel free to use it. And because of the Filecoin Plus project, we decided that the NFT is a high value product. It is an important asset that humans should own. So Filecoin Plus right now is funding this whole project. So you get free storage on this one for life. So Web3 storage, what if your stuff that you're storing is not NFT? Web3 storage is there for that purpose. Web3 storage has more capabilities, I believe bigger files, and Web3 storage is another project that's built by IPFS and Filecoin, even though it doesn't have IPFS and Filecoin logo all over it. This is designed to give you the benefit of decentralized storage via this web tool, and as frictionless as possible. So it is free for you to store up to 1 terabyte, and it's compatible with JavaScript and Go libraries. It's got that 2 SDKs. Other languages are in development. But what if you need to store more than 1 terabyte of information, right? Well, the good news is you will never guess it. It's also free for now, thanks to Filecoin Foundation sponsoring this tour. So why not use it? It's practically free usage for the decentralized web. PowerGate is one of the more advanced tools for developer. It is a Docker container wrapped around Filecoin and IPFS node, and gives you a lot of options for configuring storage provider selections. And it also extends functionalities of libp2p, which is like the lower layer of what makes peer-to-peer communication works in IPFS, and you can use it to build any other peer-to-peer systems, basically. So it extends the functionality of IPFS and also Filecoin. Textile also offers you a Polygon bridge, and Chainlink bridge, I believe, is coming. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So that's an awesome tool. Take a look at Textile. And finally, the Orbit DB. This tool is still in either alpha or beta. It tries to build a decentralized database. So backend is a bit hard to build, and storing all of the data on chain is expensive and resource intensive. Sometimes you don't want it. So how about creating a decentralized database where all the peers in the network sort of keeps a piece of database, and you have a way to search through. It's very like a file system, but database has very different requirements for that. So feel free to try out. We have people who use the Orbit DB in their hackathon project, and they really liked it. And might be tricky to get around at first, but then once you start using that, it can be a very powerful backend for your DApp. So hopefully I've given you a good understanding of IPFS and Filecoin, a mental model and architecture layer 2. There are lots of opportunities there. That's what I'm excited for. Actually, if you look a little bit closer, like we have the front-end layer there, Web 2, Web 3. Logic layer, there's a few chains, tools provided there. You can run your own logic or use the Ethereum smart contract as your logic layer. On the right-hand side, I'm very excited about Filecoin virtual machine that is launching this year. Some early builders have already been using that right now to build smart contract. Filecoin smart contract will be, the benefit is like you can use the smart contract where your data is, right? So data is actually very expensive to move around if you're talking about really, really big data like 4K videos and machine learning models or training data. Those are very expensive to move around. If you can compute at where your storage is located, there is very little need for logistic designs. And if we can use FVM to make the deal making process a lot better and encourage interesting ways to charge for storage, like enabling permanent storage automatically, then that could also happen with the help of FVM. Now, EVM is very popular, and we're trying to build the EVM compatibility as well. That's in the FVM's roadmap. Storage is a massively fundamental component of all modern technology. There are so many use cases that you can dive into here, and I will talk about a few. So if you are a hacker with really great ideas before you even come to the hackathon, that's great. Go for your idea. Try to use IPFS and Filecoin in your project. But if you're like me, who in the last minute trying to think of ideas and couldn't often, then you're in luck. I'm going to give you some ideas right now, so you don't have to think about it. We have composed a list of Filecoin. We have composed a list of possible use cases, on hackathons.filecoin.io. You can check it out. And also you can check out some past hackathon winners as well. We have a Hall of Fame, so you can perhaps mutate some of their ideas and make a new idea out of that. But before I dive into the use cases, let me talk about a little bit about the Filecoin IPFS ecosystem. IPFS as a technology has attracted many, many projects to use it. And you can see that on the left bottom left hand, you can see a lot of browsers are getting adopted to our IPFS project, and so the IPFS node can run natively on those browsers, and you can interact with the IPFS protocol directly without having to put a gateway prefix in front of it. Now, Brave and Opera is already done, and Chrome and Firefox are in the way. We're building a lot of integration with different wallets. I believe MetaMask is in the works, and for data, I mentioned earlier, OrbitDB, Fleek. And there are many other projects that is trying to do something interesting in the data space. There's players in the identity space. There is persistence, so pinning services are there to help. And we have all the other use cases as well. Many people are using that right now. It's really a vibrant community. And this diagram is way outdated. Actually, there is a website now called IPFS Ecosystem and Filecoin Ecosystem website to give you a more up-to-date version of this diagram. So Filecoin ecosystem is also a vibrant ecosystem. We have a lot of dApps in this space. Slate, which is like a Dropbox for consumers, Dropbox in the Web3 space. Zora allows trading of assets, and Voodoo, developer tooling like Truffle, Fission, and Versa also build Filecoin integration in there. And researchers are using Filecoin to persist their research data. Stanford University and other research institutes are using Filecoin. Now, the implementation of Filecoin is also open source, so anyone can build miner software or storage provider software or client software. So we have the official tool called Lotus, which is the most performant and mostly widely used by the storage providers. We also have Venus, that's built by a community member called Force Web3, and also Forest implementation. So 3 kinds of miner softwares. Forest is built by ChainSafe. I've had the fortune of meeting a couple of engineers from ChainSafe last week. So which institutions are using IPS Evolve and Filecoin? So there are internet archives, which are storing like election data past 2016 on Filecoin to persist those data so people can do analysis later. There are other projects are using that. We go to a lot of hackathons all year round, and a lot of hackers submit their project to us as well. Also, Livepeer, Audius, which is music for Web3, music player for Web3 or music service provider for Web3, and also OpenSea is there using that. Huddle is another one we can mention, video platform. It's they're doing good things in the Web3 space. So Filecoin provides scalable storage for the next 1 billion NFTs and the metaverse. We hope so. And these are, like, you can think of quite a few projects to work on, like tickets, game assets, music, high definition videos, whatever that requires large storage. It's perfect for us. AR, VR assets usually requires the 3D map are getting bigger and bigger year on year, getting more complex. So you can use IPFS to store it. It's immutable reference, so no one can ever change it, and documents, etc. So with Filecoin, we can have persistent verifiable storage. That verifiable word is very important because NFTs are high value. You don't want people to mess around with it, and when you have it, you don't want to. You won't want to have the fake NFTs there. So storing storing NFT assets, IPFS only, and IPFS all the way. There are some 11 project ideas here. You can take your time to grab a screen grab on this. But one of the things I'd like to mention is this sky is the limit. And also the interesting project is if you look at the bottom middle, hot or cold coffee, that's an interesting one because it's suggesting to build some kind of smart contract that uses Chainlink Weather Oracle to pull the current temperature and see if the coffee is hot. Recommend a correct temperature coffee to a recipient. So Chainlink is wonderful. It's bridging the Web2 APIs into the Web3 world, and without it, many projects are not possible. One of my favorite, I'm a dad now. I'm dad of 2 girls. One of my favorite things to do is to tell dad jokes, and I love this dad joke API. If I can have a dApp working and then talk to the API to grab those dad jokes and serve it and mint something like NFT or get people to pay per joke, that will be great. I'll make millions. So IPFS Filecoin social good initiatives. I would like to quickly touch on this area. It's not just the fancy technology and fancy dApps that we're building. We're also trying to do good to our planet too. So Filecoin Green is a very notable project that Filecoin has right now. We recently had a big summit on sustainability and blockchain in South by Southwest conference in Austin. That Filecoin sort of started, and it was a very successful event. Got a lot of people thinking about how to make a infinite machine that we're building that consumes a lot of energy by doing proof of work or other kind of proof, make them greener, right? Filecoin is not proof of work. Filecoin is proof of replication and proof of space and time. Our miners are not consuming a huge amount of data. The miners' electricity profile looks like a normal data center, but we still care about energy. So Filecoin Green is an initiative that seeks to make Filecoin blockchain carbon neutral, and in time even carbon negative. Filecoin Green team, who I've met last week, they were doing awesome work on making energy accreditation, stored, referred, and also they're making energy audit reports stored and referred reliably on chain, so people can report these better. And Filecoin has grants for storage providers right now to turn their energy into green. So one of the storage providers that I recently visited in Amsterdam, he has gotten funding to do solar energy there. So during the day, all of their mining machines are on solar power, which is great. And overnight, they're using electricity, but that saves a lot of money for them. And electricity is expensive in Europe. Filecoin Foundation for the Decentralized Web, FFDW. This is a not-for-profit organization, which mission is to ensure the permanent preservation of humanity's most important information, and does it by encouraging open source development, preserving important data sets, so encouraging institutions to move their data from Web 2 to Web 3, especially the data that is going to be public and benefit the whole entire human race. And we also do a lot of funding research and development. We have grants going on all around. We have dev grants, we have RPs, and also for your hackathon project, if you want to continue, we have a wonderful grant process called a micro grant and also next step grant. Micro grant, next step grant are the same thing, but we also have a bigger grants to help you to kick off your project and turn it into a startup company. And after you become a startup company, we can help you to hook up with some accelerator program to continue the funding. So do try to submit to our pool, because this might be a good way for you to build your organization in the future and turn this into a big thing, not just the hackathon project, but it might be your lifetime's passion in the future. Filecoin Plus is the initiative that I spoke on earlier. It aims to incentivize storage providers to store valuable data sets on Filecoin. So we have incentivized a lot of storage providers to provide data at the beginning. So they bought a lot of hard drives. Actually, fun fact, like 1% of the hard drive that's produced in the world gets bought by Filecoin storage provider. And that's huge. Like we literally have about 1%. We could host 1% of the cloud storage all of the world. So with Filecoin Plus, the Filecoin storage provider are taking 10 times the block reward for a verified storage. So that means Filecoin Plus is able to verify whether data is useful, and if it is useful, the miners gets a lot more reward than before. And we do this by a decentralized committee. So they're called notary system. We have notaries in each parts of the world, and together they are verifying the client, they're verifying the content, and they're giving out something called data caps, which are basically the storage for free for these institutions to store the data over to Filecoin. Now, as I mentioned earlier, NFT.storage is one of the projects that it is funding. So right now it is providing the free storage for anyone who wants to store NFT on Filecoin. There are some other notable social goods. The Showa Foundation had a partnership with a Starling Lab, and they're working on how to store the genocide survivors' testimonies on Filecoin permanently for a very, very long time, so the rest of the world can learn from their experience and never do anything like that again. The Internet Archive stores worked with Protocol Labs to onboard the end of presidential term data, about 20 terabyte in size, to Filecoin. Researchers from Columbia University and other institutes are trying to store petabytes. Like, there's a crazy amount of climate data available to climate researchers. Hopefully someone can pull that and do something useful and help us to combat climate change. There are many, many other things that is happening. I won't name every single one of them. So what's next? Now, what's on the map is, I kind of gave you a spoiler already, Filecoin Virtual Machine. You can go on fem.filecoin.io and take a look at what's coming and get excited about that. You may not be able to use it in this hackathon, but it is definitely coming later this year. And we do many, many hackathons around the globe all the time. So be sure to use it in one of your hackathon projects. So I'm super excited about this one. And my colleague is working with a cohort of early builders to adopt this. So that's it, FEM. So lots of opportunities for you to build. If you're building, also consider not all of you have to build dApps, right? There's plenty of dApps around from all these hackathons. Feel free to dive deeper in some other layers. Now, I mentioned libp2p earlier. IPFS has IPRD and multi-format. If you guys can use any of those core libraries and build some project like a peer-to-peer chatting software or peer-to-peer broadcast software, then that's great, and that will be eligible for Filecoin Pro Prize as well. So please do think a little bit deeper and differently. Filecoin creates a whole new economy with lots of opportunities to create new ventures every layer, right? I like this visualization because it makes like technical sense, but also it makes business sense as well. It's gotten a lot of business models written for you already, so you can build more around it. When you're building a project, you shouldn't just think about it as a one-time project. You should think of it as a sustainable startup that can lead to a massively successful enterprise. So at least that's how I participate in hackathons. I don't think of it as a small project to run at once. I want it to grow. And only if I think like that, I can then persuade other people to actually believe in this dream. So please do consider all layers, take a screenshot of this, get some ideas, brainstorm it, and then start hacking. So speaking of hacking, we won't be able to do that without getting some resources reference to go to. I didn't have any hands-on stuff prepared today, but you can get those videos really easily by going to a few places. Now, Proto School is one of them. NFT School, my colleagues have written wonderful tutorials that you can follow step by step and build your application there. You can copy paste their codes in your project and get it working. And also the docs with on nft.storage and web3.storage is brilliant. Use their SDKs to simplify your project. It will save a lot of time rather than fiddling with the API HTTP library yourself. And YouTube, like search IPFS, getting started, and maybe search for a specific use case that you wanted to do. There are heaps of tutorials already there showing you the code and how to accomplish that. So once again, contribute, and also after your hackathon project, if you win a Pro Prize, definitely we're open to we're open to anyone to submit grants later on. We do have an independent grants application process, and there are micro grants and specific project grants with bonuses. We would like to fund you if you got a good idea. We would like to fund you regardless where you are and when you submit it. We also have a few ways for you to get involved with the community. The Slack channel, we started the community in Slack, and that's the most vibrant one. You should definitely join. And we also have a Discord channel for whoever absolutely has to use Discord. There is an ambassador program as well, Orbit community. So you can join there and host meetups in your own specific location, and we will sponsor you for hosting these things. And you can chat to us directly. There is a team of a few developer advocates around. We run office hours every Friday, Friday time in Australia anyways, and then we can speak to you directly and talk to you about your project. And you can follow us on YouTube. We have newsletters. We are quite active on Twitter. Everyone should be active on Twitter in this Web3 space. And most importantly, hackathon.filecoin.io. Whatever hackathon we go to, we make sure we're listed there. If we actually sponsor and send our developer advocates to support, like what I'm doing right now, we'll definitely put it on that page. Now, upcoming hackathons, we're participating heavily on the Rollathon by Gitcoin, and also Hack Money 2022, which is the East Global Hackathon. Again, go to hackathons.filecoin.io to find out. And I got about 4 minutes, actually 10 minutes left. I would like to give you this quote, which I loved, and this is from Alan Kay, computer scientist. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So I hope I give you a lot of information in a short amount of time, and they're good information for you to work on your project. You really understood the mechanism of IPFS and how Filecoin plays in this whole Web3 storage space. So next time when you meet your developer colleagues, you can explain to them really well on what they are, and really go deep into the roots of it. So hopefully I've inspired you as well to come up with your own project that uses IPFS Filecoin. If you have any storage needs, basically swap out that line of code and use NFT storage or Web Pseudo storage, and there you go. You're on DWeb storage. So thank you for being a part of creating our future, both the history and also the future here at Chainlink Spring 2022 Hackathon. I think I will be participating in the judging as well. So I'll work with my colleague Pan and also Ali on judging. If you have some questions, please go to the Chainlink Discord channel. We have a sponsor channel called IPFS and Filecoin. Do ask your questions there. And it can be related to anything, how we judge, and what's important. If that's eligible, throw your ideas there, and we'll answer that for you. That's all from me. I've been talking for about 57 minutes. I wonder if the organizer has any questions, or what else would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I can relay some questions from the chat.
Sure.
Here. So one question.
There's a lot of chats. Nice, great.
Yes.
I didn't see that. I was on the private chat.
You can check it out and just read off of there, I guess.
Sure, please.
So there's a question on the Filecoin VM, the kind of the infrastructure of it.
FVM is it Docker-like or virtual-like or WSL-like? I'm not sure. I'll need to look into the architecture of it, but it's heavily based on WASM. So I'm not sure which one that will be then. So I believe the WebAssembly has a pretty good way of dealing with architecture, and is generally available for many architectures. So if that's what you're worried about, I heavily recommend you to take a look at the Filecoin virtual machine architecture diagram. It has a diagram there. And also on our Slack, we have a FVM channel. We should have one. If we don't have one, I'll talk to the team about it, and answer. Hopefully, that'll answer more questions. Sorry, I won't be very helpful here today.
So IPFS. Oh, yep.
Chris, love your profile. I love Rick and Morty. Some kids show up at my door on Halloween dressed up as Mini Rick. I thought that was brilliant. So can IPFS help prevent duplication of NFTs or any file in general? Yes, so how it works is it will generate the CID the same if it is the same NFT that's being uploaded. But if it is slightly different, like someone change a bit of it, it will be a different CID. So the address is different. So let's say you're minting an NFT and your metadata, you've put down one CID, like IPFS.io, like gateway with gateway or not with gateway. You upload that and keep it there, and that will always be whatever digital asset you have uploaded to IPFS, always be there. If someone tampers with it, they will have a different address, and that's not going to be on that NFT metadata, basically, not matching with the NFT metadata. So we're providing a reference, but we don't deduplicate it, actually, like delete duplication. It's just whatever you uploaded in different networks, it will also have the same reference. So that's how it works. I hope that answers your question and what you're trying to do. Any more questions? So tracking locations, I think that question came up in the last week when I was speaking to a few people. I'm not sure. I believe it is not possible. The peer ID doesn't get exposed when you get to where it is. The system sort of finds its own way to find its own way to find it, but it doesn't actually give you a mapping of or routing of what peers you have gone through to do it. But I can confirm that though. Reach out to me on Slack or Twitter or whatever. I can find out the answer for you. I believe it was professionally answered last week by someone. Someone had the same issue or question. I can get that answer for you if it is important for your project. Yeah, we do have a Discord channel. We use bridging, like bots, to send messages from one channel to like Slack channel, Discord channel, Slack channel. It gets super confusing, but feel free to jump on it. We can all see your message, and we will know that where you come from and go to that like chatting software to to answer your question. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Just very quickly, mining Filecoin requires very big investment on it and also slashing. So have a think. We have a storage provider like course for you to do if you're interested and get serious about it. It's not for fainted hearts. So so yeah, have a look and decide whether you want to invest in it.
All right, thanks so much, man. That was a fantastic presentation. I'm sure it looks like everyone in the audience was very happy with all that they learned today. So yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to head into the Discord, just like we were talking about, and ask away about IPFS, Filecoin, and the future of storing data on the web. Thanks for coming.
Lovely. Thank you, and GM everyone, wherever you are.